looking at the reflection of this first session with Claire, or this fourth session with Claire. With regards to what I'd written down on the counselling notes, obviously the client's name, which is Claire Bowman, the session was the fourth session, and the date was today's date, which is the 4th of October 2021. The goals that we chatted about, which was, I suppose, an extension of our previous session, was that Claire wanted to feel more confident and with her own abilities, and just to kind of get rid of some of that self-doubt. So once again, I suppose the topics we discussed was a continuation of the last session as well, about wanting to address those feelings of self-doubt, and and also, I suppose, getting ways so that she can feel more confident about herself. Because of what Claire had mentioned, that she had some previous success with a behaviour change program, I thought it was appropriate to actually use a behavioural experiment. So, and I went through that, and I explained to Claire what the experiment was, and I gauged whether or not that she felt confident enough to be able to do it, and she said yes. And then I also mentioned in that session that once in our next session, which is in 2 weeks' time, we'd actually reflect back on how she thinks she went with the experiment, and yeah, how perhaps it might have challenged some of those negative thoughts that she'd had previously. So with regards to the rationale for using this particular behavioural experiment for Claire, I suppose one of the things that really highlighted to me is because Claire had such or had that success with a behavioural experiment, a behavioural change program in the past, which helps to change that behaviour. To me, it would suggest that this is a pretty good chance that that Claire might be able to have some changes, thoughts, and behaviour by using a behavioural experiment as well. Also, too, because Claire's main issues were centering on those feelings of self-doubt, I wanted to encourage Claire, through the use of that, being involved in that behavioural experiment, to firstly identify when she was actually having those negative thoughts, and then from getting her to ask those simple questions to herself, I'm actually wanting her to challenge her perception of her current reality, of her thoughts, and then I suppose then by testing to see whether or not those actual thoughts that she's having were actually really realistic and appropriate. Another main goal for me, I suppose, was to help Claire to minimise those feelings of stress and to enhance her feelings of self-confidence and worth, and also helping her to feel more, once again, more confident within her parenting skills as well. Some limitations, I think it's really important, and I think I mentioned it when I was talking to Claire, that it's really important that Claire is open when she's asking herself those questions, and I suppose even before that, to make sure that she's open to actually, first of all, identifying those thoughts, writing those thoughts down, and then actually being honest with her answers. And I think from then, if Claire isn't able to do that, it would be really hard to actually do any more exploring of how Claire is feeling in the next session if she hasn't actually been honest with herself and with me as well. What worked well? I think it was a nice introduction, went fairly smoothly and fairly naturally, I believe. What didn't? I still think I'm a little clunky with how I kind of introduce certain topics, I suppose, to a certain degree. What could I have done differently? I don't know. I felt that perhaps that I haven't got to the crux of the matter, but even though in some ways I felt it was too short, but I think that I did cover the main points. I probably could have explored more with Claire how that process of that homework might look for her, but she seemed, when I asked if she felt comfortable being able to do that, she appeared to be able to do that, but maybe I could have perhaps extended a little bit more on some of the questions that she might be asking herself as well. Areas for development. Look, I just think it's just more about that practice of asking the questions in a certain way, being as natural as one can, while also being effective as well. How to develop, once again, it comes back to that practice. Watching videos, as I've been doing, obviously watching the AI PC videos, doing reading, just listening, and also looking at any other resources that might be helpful as well. And I think also too, another big thing is just having the confidence in my own abilities as well, and recognizing that the wheel's not going to stop if I have to do it again. And I think that comes back to just being natural with myself, and also in the way that I'm sharing that information, and also how I'm listening to Claire or any other clients as well.